In Walmart's Hoonuville, everyone ready their cart. Amazing Black Friday deals are about to start. Online and in the app, such great deals to explore. Everything you love from tech, toys, and more. The days to save and the ones to remember. It's only the 25th to the 30th of November. Set your alarms. Don't miss out. These deals are epic, without a doubt. The Who's are all ready, but are you? Walmart Black Friday deals await. Who knew?
This episode is presented by State Farm. Having insurance isn't the same as having State Farm. It's like needing the protection of an offensive guard on the football field, but getting an elementary school crossing guard. Sure, they're both guards, but you can only trust one to keep your quarterback safe when the game is on the line. So don't settle for just any insurance when there's State Farm. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
'Tis the season for all your holiday favorites, like A Very Jonas Christmas Movie and Home Alone on Disney+.
Should I burn down the joint? I don't think so.
Then Hulu has National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
We're all in for a very big Christmas treat.
All of these and more streaming this holiday season. And right now, save big with our special Black Friday offer. Bundle Disney Plus and Hulu for just $4.99 a month for 1 year. Savings compared to current regular monthly price. Ends 12/1. Offer for ad-supported Disney Plus Hulu bundle only. Then $12.99 a month or then current regular monthly price. 18 plus terms apply.
Welcome to Wrestling with Heart, a podcast looking at pro wrestlers giving back to their community. Join me, Stanley Carr, as I interview wrestling's hottest names who use their platforms as entertainers to raise awareness and do community service. Hello and welcome to another edition of Wrestling with Heart. This is the show where we talk with professional wrestlers and professional wrestling personalities about their lives in and outside of the ring, as well as doing acts of charity work, community service, volunteering, and spreading positivity. We're always about the positive vibes here on the show, and with me right now, I've got a very special guest. He has worked for WCW, the WWE, and various other promotions. I am pleased to welcome the one and only Todd Champion. Welcome, Todd, to Wrestling with Heart.
How you doing, man?
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much for being here. Talk to me about your childhood. Where did you grow up?
Man, I grew up in a little small town called China Grove, North Carolina, and lived there till I was moved to Virginia when I was 12, 13. Then we moved to California when I was 15 and lived in Los Angeles. And I went to high school there and junior high school. Then I went on to college and played college. I had a football scholarship at Utah State University. Played offensive line there. And was a free agent with the Rams and the 49ers for 2.5 years. Short career there. But that's kind of where that's the Reader's Digest version of what was going on back then.
So you moved around in different places across the country, see different parts of the United States, and sports seemed to be a big part of your life. Was that always something you got interested in even back then as a kid?
Yeah, I started playing football when I was 7 years old, man. And from there on, I was football, baseball, and basketball. I was a three-sport guy, Little League baseball, all that fun stuff, was decent. I was a good athlete, so everything came easy to me. A lot of times I had to work hard, but my dad was a sports guy too, and he coached me in Little League and football and all that stuff. And my uncle was a really good high school ball player in North Carolina. He was voted back of the century in the state of North Carolina back in the 70s. And so I come from kind of a sports background, sports family type thing. So that's kind of how it all got started as far as that's concerned.
What was your favorite sport that you got to play growing up?
Well, probably football. Yeah, that was my, if you see behind me, got the football helmets. I've got my 49er helmet, my Ram helmet, even got my college helmet. Then I've got my helmet when I was 12 years old still over here. So I kept all that. My wrestling belts are over here too. This is kind of, my office is a little disarray right now, but I just got back from London, England. So plugging all this high-tech stuff back in so you young guys can figure it out.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I've talked a lot about how football and wrestling kind of go hand in hand because
Yeah.
so many guys have been able to transition and cross over. Was
Right.
wrestling something that you watched growing up before
You
deciding to
know,
break in the business?
it's so funny. I lived in the state where wrestling was pretty popular back in the, I was in the 60s and 70s, but I was so into football, I didn't pay attention to it. I kind of got into professional wrestling by accident. Um, I just got an injury release from the 49ers. I tore my hamstring up so bad I couldn't even report to camp. So they did what they call a medical release. So anyway, I got real. I said, you know what, I'm going to take a year off. I've been doing this a long time. And I went back to North Carolina to visit my grandparents and walked into a sporting goods store one day and was talking to a gentleman. And he goes, you ought to get into professional wrestling. And I'm like, oh, you got to be kidding me. I've been living in California for a while, right? So he said, let me introduce you to somebody. And I don't know if you've heard of this gentleman, but he's passed away now, but his name was Nelson Royal.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so I met Nelson. He had a Western store in Mooresville, North Carolina. And we sat down, went in there and just started talking. And he had a ring in his barn. They didn't have wrestling schools back then. And he said, well, if you're serious, he said, I'll get you in the ring. And if I think you got some chutzpah, I'll introduce you to Dusty Rhodes. And so after a few months of training and working out in the summertime and 30 degrees in the wintertime and no heat, that's a hardcore way to learn. One day he felt like he wanted to introduce me to Dusty and introduced me to Dusty Rhodes. And they basically hired me in the NWA and back in 86, I think. And they had me doing dark matches before in between tapings, television. And that's how I kind of, learned. And then from there, after about 6 months of that, Dusty went to a Rust TV show. And I thought I was going to be a dark match again. And Dusty goes, come here, I want to talk to you for a second. And I said, what's up, Dusty? He goes, I'm going to change your name to Todd Champion.
Mm.
And once the Todd Champion name got out there, I started wrestling, on television and started getting a following. And they thought there was something there, marketing wise, and kind of went from there.
Now, starting out, everybody's got their own story with how they break into the business.
Uh,
It's hard, when you really, you put a lot of work into this and putting in so much discipline and blood, sweat, and
uh,
tears into your craft.
uh,
What was your story like learning how to wrestle, and any pointers you got from Nelson Royal, Dusty Rhodes, or anybody that you worked with starting out that you've taken and applied to today after your time in the ring?
well, Dusty was kind of like a second dad to me back then. I don't know if you remember a guy named Magnum TA.
Mm-hmm.
Magnum and I got to be good friends. When I remember when he got in that car accident with his Porsche and all that stuff. We were all in Charlotte together. But Dusty kind of brought me along really slow. I would go to house shows. Russ would be the first match, every night, and you just kind of got to pay your dues at that point. And back then there was no creative writing, none of this. This was all done spur of the moment. You listen to the crowd, you work the crowd, let the heel call the match. And all I would do is listen. And the guys I listened to, and then over time I started working my way up the card, up the card, up the card. After they felt like I was TV worthy, and they put me on TV, and I had my first match and went on television. And then probably a year after that, I wrestled Ric Flair for the TV title. I thought that was a little quick because felt like I was still green, but being in the ring with a guy like Ric Flair, everybody said, "Don't worry, if you got a night off working with that guy." So that kind of got my name out there even more. Didn't win the match, but we had a good match, and Todd Champion kind of took off at that point in time.
And I mean, you had so many incredible moments working for the NWA and WCW back in the 80s and early 90s. Talk to me about your time with the promotion. Any stories you want to share?
Man, there's a lot of stories. How much time you got? Uh, so I was with the NWA, and that's where I started. Then they bought out the Kansas City territory and sent a group of us up there. Remember Sam Houston, the Mod Squad, Thunderfoots, all those guys. We were up there for about 6 months, came back, and then stayed back in the NWA, wrestled, wrestled quite a bit there. Then we were bought out by Turner Entertainment, and that's when it turned into WCW at that point. And I didn't want to go to Atlanta, so I went back to California for a year. Got my Screen Actors Guild card in Hollywood, and did some background stuff with Tango and Cash and Rocky Five. Not a lot of people know that. So I was kind of doing TV and movies before anybody else was, but nobody really knew about it. So I'm out there for a year, and I'm actually on the set of Tango and Cash, and I was doing some fight scenes with Sylvester Stallone in a prison and all that stuff. And I get a phone call from Dusty. He goes, "Hey kid, what are you doing?" I said, "Well, can I call you back? I'm on the set right now." He goes, "How are you on the set of Tango and Cash?" I said, "Well, I got my SAG card." He goes, "Well, call me back." I said, "Okay." So a couple days later, I called him back after the shoot was over, and we talked. And he said, "We want you to come back. We've got some ideas for you." I flew back to Atlanta one time. We talked about it. I went back to California. Finally, we put something together as far as a guaranteed contract goes, and came back. They decided to put me in a tag team with Curtis Thompson, and they called us the Patriots, the WCW Patriots. And from there, we were the babyface tag team, the All-American guys. We came out right after Desert Storm. And then we beat the Freebirds for the titles, for the TV titles, U.S. tag team titles, I'm sorry. And we carried those straps for a while. And that's kind of how the Patriots were born at that point. And then, we wrestled for, several years after that. But then the company shut down. AOL bought the company out and said wrestling didn't fit in their programming, which is about the dumbest thing I ever heard. So Vince kind of swooped in and scooped up everybody. But I kind of got disheartened with the business for a little while. So I just kind of got engaged. Next thing I know, I'm married. I'm, working a regular job and car business, became a finance manager. And then I get a call from Memphis, the Mid-South, and Jerry Lawler calls me. Says, "Hey, well, we'd like to, do a program with you." And I said, "Okay." So I went there, and I'd never been a heel before. They wanted me to come in as a heel. So I came in as a heel, and then I beat him for the Mid-South heavyweight title. And, we ran that program for a while. And then at that point, I was kind of ready to retire from the business. And once I had that run was over, I settled down, got married, and, the kids and all that came along after that. So.
Yeah, you got to work against a lot of different people over the course of your career.
I did.
Who have been some of your favorite opponents that you got to wrestle against?
Oh, probably Rick Rude, Larry Zbyszko, the Enforcers, Arn Anderson. Good Lord, we wrestled so many. The Freebirds, of course. We wrestled so many different cats during that time. I mean, I don't really have, because they were all great. They were all great guys. Great wrestlers in their own right. And when you stepped in the ring with those guys, you knew you were going to have a quality match. Oh, Stone Cold Steve Austin was probably one of my favorites. He was stunning Steve in WCW. And we had a couple matches we had some really good matches on television during the WCW days at that point. So stunning Steve and those guys, like I said, Flair, and you wrestled the Barbarian, those guys. So there was a lot. The Young Pistols, I think they beat us for the straps at one point during the WCW days. The list goes on and on. Kevin Nash, he was in WCW. He wasn't big sexy at the time.
Was he Oz? I think he was like.
He was Oz, right. He wasn't Oz then. He was like this Vegas guy. Vinny Vegas.
Vinny Vegas.
Yeah. you're making me work some brain cells. That worked. So guys like that. So when you get a chance to wrestle that many different people and that so much talent there, it gets overwhelming. But yeah, those are some good times.
How long were you with WCW?
We almost probably 3 or 4 years, 3 years, 3 years, I think. Yeah.
And you had a run with the WWE as well. Talk to me about that.
Well, it wasn't really a run; it was more of a tryout. So wrestled the Samoans. Me and I can't remember the guy that was with me, but at that point, I don't know what they didn't. Was in the WWE. It was great, had a great match and all that, but I don't know. It just didn't work out. So I went back home and didn't quit my day job and kept going.
Did you have the chance to meet some of the guys backstage? Did you have the chance to talk to Vince McMahon or?
Yeah, I did. I did talk to Vince. Andre the Giant was a big giant sweetheart. A lot of those guys had transitioned into the WWF at the time, before it was WWE. So, a lot of those guys, your paths crossed in the NWA, they crossed in Mid-South, so you see them. I think Rick Rude was already up there. Some of the guys that I wrestled with WCW were already up there. So pretty much the same crew just went from one company to the next, and, so that's kind of how it goes.
With wrestling, it seems like a lot of things change over time. Everything evolves. And
Right.
do you at all keep up to date with the current product? Do you?
I watch it every once in a while. I'm an old school guy. You know, now they have creatives writing and all. We didn't have any of that stuff. I mean, and we still put out a good product. But they've got all these behind the scenes people doing the production's gotten bigger. It's, it's passed me by. The business has passed me by as far as that's concerned. Me personally, I'd like to see more wrestling and less talking, but that's just me. But anyway, it's a different time. You got a different fan base now. And it's working. Whatever they're doing is working. So as long as the ratings are good, they're going to keep doing what they're doing.
Are there people that you watch whenever you do get a chance to watch, whether it's WWE or AEW, that you go, man, this.
Hello, I'm Diane Morgan. If you know who I am, you know who I am. If you don't, who cares? I'm here to explain Italian Time, a holiday phenomenon where Italians throw away their clocks and gather for eternity with San Pellegrino. I've been at this party so long that I've eaten 5 courses, hugged someone's grandma twice, and been offered a job in the family restaurant. So this holiday season, make sure to bring enough San Pellegrino to last you through the meal, the after meal, and the entire goodbye ritual. San Pellegrino, holiday on Italian Time.
Guy or this girl's really good. I like their work.
The Rock was probably somebody. He came along, after us. I liked him a lot. I think The Rock did a great. Now he's a megastar, in Hollywood and all that. There, gosh, there's so many now. There's so many personalities now. It's almost hard to keep up with, to be honest with you. But there's a lot of talent out there. But I don't have any really one person that jumps out at me because, like I said, I was around during the Sting age, and and we were pretty good friends for a little while and all that. So, but the talent is good. I think the quality of television is 100 times better than it was when I was doing wrestling. I think we were kind of the foundation for what you're seeing today. We were the guys that started it all. Let's just put that way. My generation
definitely helped laid the groundwork for the current era.
Right.
Now, outside of wrestling, I'm sure you've done some things to help out in your community with like charity work or volunteered. Any kind of stories that you want to share about a moment where you were able to make a difference in your community?
Well, my dad was a pastor out in California, in Los Angeles. and he had a church there. So I would always go out there, and I worked in the church for a while before I got back in business. And I actually produced his cable show for him. Nobody knows that either. But my major was radio, TV production, and broadcasting in college. Never really got to use it except when I was wrestling, right? I didn't, but then I got to do some behind the scenes stuff. So I did a lot of stuff out in California and with a lot of the youth, spoke to the youth camps, and I've done all that, but my life, has changed a lot. I'm not married anymore. Kids are grown. My daughter went to the University of Tennessee. My other daughter's married. I just had my second grandbaby.
Congratulations.
Uh,
Was there, when you talk about like speaking to kids, speaking to kids in school or helping out in youth groups, was there like a moment for you that was very heartwarming that you still remember as far as like giving back?
Well, I think sometimes you give back and you don't know you're doing it, right? And then somebody comes up to you years later and says, "Hey, do you remember this? Or you did this, or you did that?" And sometimes I'd walk out of places or autograph places, and some little kid would walk up to me, and then years later, you'd see them again, and you didn't realize that you made that kind of impact on their life. And just sometimes a simple "How are you?" and a hug or whatever it was, you don't know you're helping somebody till they tell you, right? So I would go back to my church, and I'd work with the youth and all that, and just being around the kids, they especially when they're 10, 11, 12, even when they're 14 and 15, teenagers. I talk about, when I talk to the kids, you have a lot of adversity in your life, right?
Mm-hmm.
I blew my knee out in college, total knee construction, my right knee, and they said I may not ever play football again, and I beat the odds. Redshirted, got my year back, played 3 more years after that. It's just I give a lot. There's so many examples, and it's not really more of a one-on-one where you wrestle. I did what can I say? What am I trying to say here? When you're speaking to a group of kids, you don't know really who you're touching till a few years later, maybe, and they come back and say, "Hey, you remember that time you came? You spoke about this and this and that," and then they tell you, about the adversity they went through. We'll talk about what I've went through, the injuries, overcoming that, not knowing if I'd ever play football again, leaving football, losing my identity and having to refine my identity again. Became a pro wrestler, that's over with. Now, where do you start? What do you do? But I am a born again believer. I'm a Christian, and my faith in Christ has kept me from not really dwelling on characters that I played in life. But I tell people, it's not. You don't have to be on a big stage to make a difference, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to be on the big stage. It could be something as simple as, helping somebody, on the side of the road that needs help, needs food, whatever. That's as big a thing as somebody standing on a stage and preaching or talking to thousands of people. And so that's what I try to tell people. I said, you don't have to be in front of a crowd to make a difference. Everybody's got their own ministry, and, I've prayed with a lot of kids. I've kind of got a big heart. I sometimes I'll watch these things on TV with these kids that have cancer that don't have a shot. I've lived a blessed life. And so I'm thankful for what I have. I don't look at what other people have. I look at what makes me happy, and that's my faith. And if I can help somebody while I'm doing this, that's what I'm going to do. And, I was an only child. I was raised in a pastor's home. So I saw what my parents did for people. My dad passed away in 99 at my house on vacation. He was visiting me. We were pregnant with my second daughter. I was at work and he died. He came in on Tuesday and died at my house on Friday. And that's devastating, right?
Yes, yes.
Call the church. Nobody believed. My dad had never been sick a day in his life. But he was in Brazil with my mom, and she was speaking at a big convention there. So anyway, to make a long story short, I'm an only child, so I had no brothers or sisters. Planned my dad's funeral on an airplane, flying his body back to California with us. So those are times that you get tested.
Yeah.
You know, those are testing times. He was only 63, and I'm 2 years older than him now. Now I look back at it. I was 39 at the time when he passed away. And we were really close, you know, from sports, him coaching me in the league football and baseball and all that. But when you have adversity like that, you know, kids, you know, that have cancer and that pass away, you ask that question, why me? Why me? Well, if it wasn't for my faith, and I know I'm going to see him again, right? If it wasn't for my faith, I'd be saying, why me too? But I did. I didn't. There's a scripture that says sometimes he gives you peace that passes all understanding. And when my dad passed away, that peace came on me. Everybody around me was panicking. And I just, for some reason, I knew, you know, the paramedics came and there were people outside my house trying to take pictures of me. And as they were taking my dad out of the house, it was a crazy time.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I heard, not necessarily me, but I heard people come up to me. My dad was such a giver. They would come up to me and say, you know, one day I went to visit your dad. Was going on a job interview and I didn't have the money to buy a suit. So he would just pull money out of his pocket, give it to me so I could go to a job. And I heard story after story after story that he never told me. He never told me about any of that stuff. And because he never taught, that's just what he did. He gave to his community. The church was in El Monte, California, and it's still there, still going well. We were in a community. The gangs would come and spray paint, and I was there at the time. They would spray paint graffiti on the church, and at 3 a.m, get a phone call. We'd all go out, repaint the church. So when Sunday came, nobody knew nothing was going on. But when my dad passed away, to make a long story short, he was a great man, taught me a lot, and it's all about integrity. And unfortunately, in the business that I was in, it was pretty cutthroat sometimes, you know, and I guess maybe that's any business you're in. I don't know. But I just knew I didn't have any drug or alcohol problems. I wasn't one of those guys. You know, I don't have a story where I fell from grace and came all the way back. I always had a strong faith no matter what. I wasn't perfect, and I'm still not perfect. But, you know, listening to stories about my dad after he had passed and all that just gave me more incentive to be a better man and a better husband, a better father, you know, and raise my kids. I've got a son that lives in North Carolina. I got 2 daughters. One daughter's in Houston, one lives here, and they're all doing well, doing very well. My kids are doing great. I'm so proud of them. But, you know, at the end of the day, it's all about, you know, love thy neighbor, you know, and there's a lot of, right now in the world, there's so much divisiveness and just nastiness in the world, you know. We need something that will calm us down. People get lost in the rhetoric and they get lost in the internet and they get lost in these dark rabbit holes these kids go down. And all we can, and you may not agree with somebody, but you can still love them, right? And I think that's what's missing in the world right now. You're not on my team, so I don't like you. And I'm not on your team, so you don't like me. But that's not the way it should be. I mean, we should be able to agree to disagree and still go out and have dinner. You know what I'm saying?
Paying it forward, making a difference one step at a time.
Absolutely.
Todd,
Absolutely.
This has been wonderful getting the chance to speak with you. I want to say thank you for coming on to Wrestling with Heart. It means a lot to me and to my listeners and viewers that are watching this on YouTube. Where can people find out more about you? If you have anything to plug, feel free.
You know, I've been out of the market for so long. I don't know if I got anything left to plug. But you know, it's just I became a private citizen. You know, when I walked away from the business, I didn't walk away totally, but I got out of the business. I started raising a family, and I did a couple autograph sessions, the gatherings in Charlotte, North Carolina, and got connected with some of the guys again. It was good to see them. And I was supposed to go. I don't know if you remember a guy named Ivan Koloff, Russian Nightmare. I love that guy. We had some great matches. The Russian matches, me and Nikita and those guys.
Yep.
Back in the NWA days. So they were having an Ivan Koloff Memorial wrestling autograph session in wrestling that night. And I couldn't go. I really wanted to. I couldn't go. But anyway, plugging stuff. I don't really have anything to plug, but I would just tell people, it's funny too, because I'm in the car business. So people sometimes will walk by and just stare at me. They're not really sure who I am because my hair's a little gray now, and all that. But they'll stare at me and go, have I seen you somewhere before? And I'll kind of, because I'm, I try to keep it professional. But the real hardcore wrestling fans, they still recognize me. It makes me feel good,
Yeah, it has to feel good. People remember you all these years later.
Well, when I was wrestling at my peak, I was 310 pounds, and and I'm 6'5", so I stick out in the crowd no matter what. But yeah, so I've really kept a low profile all these years. Thought about a few marketing ideas, really haven't pursued them just because I've been so busy. But other than that, I've had a blessed life, man. I don't have any regrets. And I said that at my dad's funeral. I said, we talked to each other just about every day, and we tell each other we loved each other. And an interesting thing, my ex-wife, we talked about this the other day. She said she didn't have as good a relationship with her father as I did. When she was dating me, she had never heard her dad tell her that he loved her. And she heard me on the phone tell my dad, I love you, Dad. Love you too, son. Talk to you later. Bye. And she said that's what caught her eye about me as far as just seeing that kind of parent relationship. So I've been very blessed to have my mom's 86 now, and she's in good health. She's in Italy still. I came back to London, I had to go back to work. She's in Italy playing. They'll be back Wednesday. But having that kind of relationship, like I said, I was very close to my dad, very close. He was almost like he was like my best friend. And I hear and even when I was playing college ball, they would come up and watch me play. And a lot of the guys came from broken homes, right? So they would see that relationship, and they would come and tell me, man, I wish I had that same kind of relationship that you have with your dad. Because my dad and we haven't spoken 5 years. I'm like, wow. So that blows my mind,
Yeah.
So I wasn't raised that way.
Yeah.
So, and I wasn't a perfect kid. He wasn't hard on me, even though he was a pastor. He didn't make me go to church, and that's probably why I kept going, because he didn't make me, right? Kids be rebellious. Mm-hmm. But I just had such a fantastic relationship with my father. He's made me the man I am today.
And I'm sure he's very proud of you for everything that you've been able to accomplish. So, well, Todd, thanks again, and you're more than welcome to come back.
Well, you let me know, and I'll be right here for you.
Will do. Take care.
All right, take care. God bless.
Bye-bye.
This is Wrestling with Heart. I hope you found this podcast to be informative and entertaining. If you did, please hit the subscribe button and look out for the next edition.